What have you been up to recently?
I've been shilling our merchandise on subversive channels, evidently.
So I need to actually do something. I've got to change some of the product on the hats, which is what you're promoting. The walkcar.com/store, we sell a variety of things, and some of them are hats that might be politically, um,
Charged.
yeah, oh, hey.
Ah, hey.
So I've got to look at those though, because there's apparently like
Cease and desist order.
no, there's not. Yeah, the White House wrote to us. No, I've got to change the supply on the hat brand. I
Oh,
need to
gotcha.
do something with that. But anyway, go to the whatcar.com/store and check out anything that we've got because that helps fund the podcast and the blog. And for that, you get me. I'm Phil Royle. I'm one of the co-hosts here. And I've done, what am I? I'm decreasing my experience every single week. So now I'm down to 12 plus years
Oh,
of experience. Well, I can't go in 5-year increments, or else I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to run out of room after 4
like
weeks.
Benjamin Button.
Yes, I'm aging backwards. Of what's that? It's 1.2 decades of
Yeah.
experience writing content for the automotive industry and automotive journalism, and being a shill for our own merchandise.
Merchandising.
Yeah.
Spaceballs. Ed Sanchez, 20 plus years in automotive content creation and moderation, current day job, automotive electronics industry analyst, and the Watt Car co-founder and contributor.
There was a fun video this week, and I just in a random coincidence today.
Mhm.
One of my daughters was wearing a Fat Gus shirt.
Okay.
And I'm sat there at lunch and I'm like, that is amazing that you're wearing the Fat Gus shirt today. So Mark Rober, who's best known for his glitter bomb
hmm
thing,
Oh,
that's
that's the
kind of how he
same
got
guy?
famous.
Okay.
It's the same guy. Yep.
Okay.
That was where he came from, was his glitter bomb. He
Okay.
also did a thing, I believe it was during the pandemic, where he built a squirrel obstacle course in his backyard and was training squirrels basically to run around. It's a great series to run around and complete certain tasks. And then one of them he called Fat Gus. It was a
hmm
squirrel that was larger than the other squirrels,
hmm
but Fat Gus turned out to just be
Be too
pregnant.
fat.
No,
Oh,
Fat Gus was not exactly Fat Gus. So then he changed it
Justine.
to, yeah, so he changed it. It's still called Gus, but PHAT Gus, and then sold t-shirts. And my daughter has a Fat Gus shirt and she just happened to be wearing it today. And I said to her, that's awesome because I'm going to talk about Mark Rober today on the podcast. So Mark Rober, long introduction, recently did a video where he did something we've debated, you and I have debated
hmm
multiple times. And I have
A
been
lot of
on
people have
the,
theorized about, but
yeah, and I have been on the,
pro
my,
LiDAR.
well, not pro LiDAR, anti camera only.
hmm
So you talk about uh, self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles, or
hmm
even vehicles that have like drive assist.
hmm
That if you do camera only, you can. Well, I guess the drive assist doesn't matter. It could work in that case. But if you want to get to level 4, level 5 autonomy,
hmm
camera only cannot work
hmm
because level 4, level 5 is all conditions, hands off, all conditions.
hmm
And cameras work great in certain conditions,
Yeah.
and they can work exceptionally well in certain
hmm
conditions, probably as well as any kind of LiDAR
hmm
system. But they can't work in all conditions, and they're going to make more mistakes than like a
hmm
LiDAR based system.
hmm
And you've said, well, your cameras do kind of work. And that's been Elon Musk's
hmm
argument, is that cameras do work and that you can do full autonomous with cameras only. Well, Mark
hmm
Rober tested it.
hmm
So he pit a radar or a camera based car, Tesla,
hmm
against a LiDAR based car, which now I can't remember. Was it a
It
Lexus?
looks like a Lexus RX.
And did a variety of tests with them.
hmm
And he said, okay, we're going to drive into like place a mannequin of a kid in
Hmm.
rain, quote unquote rain, but it was actually like uh,
Water trucks just,
yeah, water trucks. Yeah, like you couldn't even see the kid in the
yeah,
thing. And the cameras did work okay.
little last
Although,
minute, but
yeah, well, I thought the LiDAR was also kind of last minute on that.
yeah.
Then I know one of them, I think he hit the brakes on the camera one because he was like, well, then they did like a fog thing.
Hmm.
Cameras failed in the
Hmm.
fog. LiDAR worked, I believe.
Hmm.
And then he did the funny one, which is Mark Rober's great. He did a Wile E. Coyote wall, like a
Hmm.
painted wall
The
of the road
painted road.
ahead. Yeah. And then the LiDAR stopped once again, last minute, but
Hmm.
stopped.
Hmm.
And I would actually say that LiDAR even stopped in some of these cases way too late, that if there
Hmm.
was any kind of traction issue with the ground, that you weren't stopping. But it's still like, it goes into ABS to stop.
I
The
would say that's
camera,
more programming than the
yes,
technology itself,
yes.
but
So the car tuning wasn't right,
hmm,
per se, but it didn't hit the wall. The Tesla drove right through the wall.
yeah.
Like,
Thankfully, it was styrofoam, so nobody was
yes.
injured.
And didn't even pause, just kept on going because it looked out and it saw a
Oh,
road.
road. Yeah.
And it just kind of went to prove what I've been saying, which is
You can't do
Elon
camera
Musk,
only. Yeah.
you can if you want to have autopilot as it is
Hmm.
today,
Hmm.
cameras are great. You've got to be hands-on. You've got to be aware. They're very clear in this. Despite the
Hmm.
name,
Hmm.
Tesla's very clear about these things that you've got to do. But when they say you can do full autonomous driving, full autonomy with camera only,
Hmm.
you just can't. Not
Hmm.
all conditions. And Mark Rober has an 18-minute video
Hmm.
exactly illustrating that. We know the software that Elon Musk said, oh, well, all hardware, what was it, 2.5 and on or whatever, could do
Hmm.
full self-driving. And then it turned
Which,
out to be 3, and now it's
hmm,
turning out to be 4. So we know the hardware was a lie because
hmm,
he's now admitted that. And now
hmm,
the cameras,
hmm,
another data point toward the cameras also being a lie, that these cars never could do full autonomous
yeah.
driving.
So a couple comments on this. First of all, the first half of the video is making a 3D model of Space Mountain,
Now that's
by
super
the
cool.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
which
was
I
super
really,
cool.
I actually thought was even more interesting. But no, I mean, he's got a point. So Tesla quietly is kind of backpedaled a little bit from that claim. And some of their newer cars actually have radar. So the newer Model S's and Model X's have a high definition radar module in the bumper, which in a sense kind of replaces or emulates the function of a LiDAR. So basically, like depth perception, seeing through optical occlusions like fog, like heavy rain, so
Yeah, I'm
forth.
not saying that you need to do
Yeah.
LiDAR. I'm just saying
Mhm.
camera only doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so this kind of goes hand in hand with that.
Yeah. And there's different types of cameras too. There's also like ultraviolet sensing cameras that can sense like heat profiles. So that would probably be potentially a little more accurate than just a strictly a visual camera. So
Definitely, I think like
it
even in the
could
case of the
detect like
wall, because
hot,
it would,
cold,
yeah,
whatever.
it
Yeah.
could suddenly detect a square of heat for the wall
Or cold.
because, or cold or whatever it is, and go, wait a
Hmm.
minute, there's an issue, and
Yeah.
then slam the brakes on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
you could, there are definitely other solutions.
yeah, so I mean, it's a very instructive, kind of amusing video. Yeah, I mean,
It's no glitter bomb, but
it's not a glitter bomb, but yeah, I think it is instructive. I mean, that's not to say, yeah, I think Tesla was a little too ambitious with their claims of camera only, and they've since kind of said, well, okay, maybe. So, but what I think is interesting though is, you know, especially with the Model 3 and Model Y, they were very focused on cost containment and bringing costs down, but maybe they went a little too far. And I think it's kind of telling that they offer radar in the Model S and the Model X, but not in the 3 and the Y. Um,
and I don't think
Now,
there's necessarily anything
yeah.
wrong with them
Hmm.
even saying you want level 4 autonomy.
hmm
in your car, you've got to buy a Model S or a Model X, and it's going to
hmm
cost you
hmm
$100,000. And
hmm
if you want autopilot, then you can buy a
hmm
3 or a Y, and
hmm
those will do it under certain
hmm
conditions, hands-on. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
think the problem is when you promise it across the board in every vehicle.
hmm Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see the next couple of years what what kind of strategy they take with this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've gone too far in things like Elon Musk standing on stage and saying this can do this
Yeah.
and promising it. And now it's like, if you're going to sue, you've got enough evidence to sue. You've got the CEO multiple times over many years claiming that this can do it. So I
Yeah.
think they've already dug their grave as far as that's concerned, and I'm sure that there's already lawsuits. If there's not, I'd be shocked
Yeah.
based on the hardware 3/4 announcement. And I mean, it's you get anything where there's enough people for a class action lawsuit,
hmm
and there will be a
Yeah.
class action lawsuit regardless of whether it's well founded or not.
Yeah.
So undoubtedly there's lawsuits for years based on
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Elon's promised on stage in front of millions of people because they
hmm
broadcast it, all over social
Yeah.
media. And
Anyway, I briefly kind of played around with FSD when they offered on like a free trial basis, and it was cool, and it was kind of surprising in some ways, but it was a little wonky in others. And full disclosure, I didn't use it in the rain or heavy fog. I just used it when on cleared conditions, and it worked pretty well. But I wouldn't say all conditions all the time. So
that seems to be the general, even the people that are like, oh yeah, I'm a Tesla stan, and well, I mean, nobody,
hmm
I don't think Tesla stans say that, but, this thing's great.
hmm
Even there, they've still got to intervene.
hmm
Like it's time and time again on these things, even the perfect test. And then they're like, oh,
hmm
well, this was a really tricky situation. Well, that's level 4, level 5, you guys.
yeah, yeah.
I
Anyway,
hate to burst your bubble, but you got to be able to get through the tricky situations to claim level 4 or level 5 autonomy. And
yeah.
they're just, I have no doubt Tesla can do it. It's just they've not been fully truthful in their
Well, it's
claims.
just the optics of kind of rolling back some of their claims and saying, well,
The
actually.
optics, you're saying?
So speaking of lower cost Teslas, so we have some kind of conflicting rumors out there about these supposed quote lower cost Teslas coming. So the first one's a report out of China that says the lower cost models are just going to be basically stripped down Model 3s and Model Ys. So they actually have kind of a decontented Model 3 on sale in Mexico, which is basically the Highland, but with cloth seats and without a rear display. And I guess that, you
They
know,
did they did something like this in
yeah.
Canada years ago, didn't they, as well with the Model 3, and they sold it with a hardware locked battery or a software locked battery
Well,
that was
the
under
early
a
days of
certain
the
amount.
Model 3, there was the SR and then the SR Plus, which was just a software lock basically.
I thought they did it in Canada to get underneath a price threshold as
Oh yeah,
well.
but it was really weird. It was like they limited it to only like 150 miles or
Yeah.
something to
Yeah.
meet some really obscure rule about.
Yep.
Anyway. But then I think they give you the software unlock option for like $2,000 or something. I can't even remember. But
Yeah.
yeah,
There was some hokey stuff I say hokey, some stuff, games that everybody plays.
yeah,
Nothing wrong on Tesla for doing that. So now they're just going to decontent. This is just rumor.
that's a rumor. The other rumor is there's an internal project called E41, whatever that is. So it is also going to be a variant of the Model 3 and Model Y, but it will be a little bit different. Um, so again, I mean, the second source is Reuters, which is generally a little more authoritative, but I mean, for what that's worth, the first one's just kind of a Chinese EV um, site.
I just
So,
Googled E41 because I'm like, what does that mean?
mhm.
So, one of the, I don't know if there's any truth to this, but one of them is it's a, it's an error code on certain washing machines, Electrolux, Kenmore, and Frigidaire, that typically indicates a problem with the door lock or communication issue between the control board and the door lock, suggesting the machine thinks the door is open whenever it's closed. Ironically, my washing machine does this. And I have
Yeah.
to do a workaround on that. So I don't know if this is the best code name.
Well, it's a code name, but so anyway, so that's the other rumor. That's going to be a variation, effectively of the Y. And the reason they're saying that is the Y is the only model produced at all of their factories globally. So certain factories only produce. So Fremont is all four. Um, Austin is three. No, is yeah. So no, Austin's two. Austin's Cybertruck and Model Y.
Soon to be
Shanghai,
one, then. Soon to be one.
Shanghai is Model 3, Model Y, and Berlin is Model Y only. So the Model Y is kind of the single model that all of the factories worldwide can produce. So that's why the consensus is it's going to be a variant of that. So probably scale down a little bit. This indicates to me it's probably going to be a hatchback of some sort. Um, so which I like. I like hatches. Um, so this is totally my opinion on this. This is not based on any kind of substantiated rumor or source or anything. I'm just this is just purely speculation.
So this is a bona fide fact that we're going to present.
Yes. Um, my thought is this new variant will be 400 volt for cost reasons, but they could make it 48 volt low voltage architecture and possibly steer by wire. So just kind of the incremental kind of
Do you think steer
trickle
by
down
wire?
from the Cybertruck.
Do you think
hmm
steer by wire has got the production quantity that it needs to be cost effective to put it on a low cost vehicle yet?
Okay, so here's my hypothesis with that. Again, it's just purely my opinion. I think the scale argument for steer by wire is the Cybercab. Now, I know different people will say, "Oh, that's pie in the sky. It's not going to scale till 27, 28, whatever." Who knows? We don't know. But they have stated they definitely have high volume projections for the Cybercab at some point. We know
Similar to the Cybertruck production.
um
Stop me
and
if you've heard
we
this song before.
so it's fairly obvious just by that the Cybercab will be steer by wire if they deploy it as shown with no steering wheel. Now they have some prototypes with wheels, but just the basic architecture of it, let's assume for argument's sake, note that it does not have a mechanical steering rack. So if they're going to scale the Cybercab in large numbers, then that would make the volume case for deploying steer by wire more broadly across the lineup. So I
So
think the Cybercab is probably the catalyst to see broad deployment of steer by wire.
it could also be where it's going to be more expensive initially, but they take that hit because they know after 3 years of production, and then the
hmm
Cybercab starts ramping up, and they're doing this low cost vehicle that they know they're going to hit X production numbers, and then the
hmm
cost uh, will crater on the steer by wire after 3, 4, 5 years of production, and then
hmm
that's where they can really ramp and take it. And then there's a 2 year break even, and so they know they're looking at 5 to 8 years or whatever of this production, and it sets them in the long run. Tesla's a company that does stuff like that,
hmm I
so
want to say
I could see that.
we may even know who the supplier is for at least the Cybertruck for steer by wire. I want to say it's either ZF or this other German company called Schaeffler. I don't. I remember I saw it somewhere. I think Monroe did like a teardown and actually identified, oh, this is the supplier for this.
Yeah, it says the
Um,
name on the side.
yeah. So I mean, Tesla's big enough now. Like in the early days, they had to like cajole suppliers for like Mercedes to supply them parts. So they couldn't get bespoke off the shelf stuff because they're like, well, those guys don't build high enough volume for us to really be interested. They said, but we have this component off the shelf, we'll give that to you. But now they're Tesla's to the point where their production volumes are significant enough that they're able to leverage that with suppliers and get a good deal on a large volume of components. So if they're going to suppliers saying, we're going to make so many millions of these, it might make enough sense for them to deploy it a little more broadly. But again, that's still kind of speculation. But so we'll see in a few months. Supposedly I think they said they're going to show this in maybe like May or June, the
Really?
supposed lower cost model.
Does that mean that they've given up on the Cybercab as the next vehicle? That they're gonna start showing
Uh,
this off? That's kind of my impression, is that they're having to leapfrog themselves and say, "Oh,
well,
we showed this. Now we're going to show this next thing."
I mean, I know they kind of said, oh, just your average Joe on the street will be able to walk in and get a Cybercab. I don't think that was really, I've never seen the Cybercab as like a consumer vehicle. I've seen it as a fleet vehicle
Yeah,
that,
it's crazy talk
autonomous
that
taxi
people would.
fleets.
It is absolutely crazy talk that people would say, "Yeah, somebody will go out and buy themselves a personal taxi cab." Like,
Yeah.
that's insane. Nobody's going to go and buy themselves a fully autonomous vehicle that you cannot drive, because
Hmm.
you're going to order up one of those cybercabs to come to your house and pick you up.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about parking or maintenance or anything to do with the vehicle.
Hmm.
Because yes, it's electric, but there's still maintenance involved in all of this.
Yeah.
And there's still storage of it. You're not going to have the thing running around 24/7, picking up people. There's logistical things. There's many reasons why you would not
Hmm.
want to own one of these. And one of them is it doesn't have a steering wheel.
Yeah. Well, I
So you
mean,
can
if
just call it
you're
up. I'm not going to
elderly or
go.
blind or whatever, I mean, that's maybe a plus. But anyway, so that's kind of my woolly hypothesis about the low cost Tesla low cost vehicle. So pivoting to a vehicle not quite as low cost, but still, I guess for Mercedes, kind of more entry level. Um, so they finally showed off their production intent next gen CLA, which is their, I don't know if you call it compact, but I guess compact sedan.
I've
Um,
always liked the CLA.
yeah,
Initially, when they released it, I was like, I don't get it. And
yeah,
then I saw them, rode in one, drove one, was like, yeah, okay, I like it.
yeah. So this one's interesting. I thought this would catch your attention because you were intrigued by this when Porsche did in the Taycan. This has a two-speed transmission.
It's fascinating when people do stuff like this. I like thinking differently.
Hmm.
And so that kind of thinks differently. I don't know the reason behind it on essentially an entry level vehicle. I think I'm
Hmm.
kind of like on the lines with Mate Rimac, where it's
Hmm.
like he was building a 2 second 0 to 60 supercar.
Hmm.
What do you have to do to get there?
Hmm.
With this, you're building an entry level compact sedan.
Hmm.
What do you have to do to get there is just build something that's cost effective, that's
Hmm.
mechanically simple.
Well,
And so I don't
so on,
understand that, but I like doing different things.
yeah, on the point of Navara, they ultimately abandoned the two-speed concept and went back to a single speed or
And they
single
did that.
ratio.
They did
Yeah,
that because of Tesla.
yeah. Well, and also too, I think in their testing, it's the law of diminishing returns, and like they could get like maybe a thousandth of a second quicker, but I think they might have had some mechanical issues in prototype testing and said, you know what, the the gain in performance versus the mechanical issues we're having, it's better to have a simpler
Yeah.
setup that's more robust, less prone to failure. Anyway,
Now
I
I
think,
think Porsche
mhm,
does it. They
yeah,
still do it, don't they?
yeah,
Uh,
Taycan's got a two
yeah.
speed. I think it's
And
on the rear motor only, but
and that I think makes
yeah,
sense because that's an enthusiast vehicle.
yeah,
And that
and
you
it's
would buy something.
150,000 plus,
Yeah, but you would buy something that is unique and has
Hmm.
a differentiation versus other vehicles like that. And then
Hmm.
you can go, uh, you don't say, what car do you have? And you're like, I don't know, it's whatever. I just drive it and it happens to be a Porsche. You will say, I've got a Porsche.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you will know a little bit more about your vehicle. So I think there's a lot of value to Porsche doing it
Hmm.
as far
Hmm.
as the enthusiast side of it. They're being different, even if it's just for the sake of being different. A CLA, I don't.
Well,
not
so
yet.
so their rationale from what I gathered was they did get incrementally better efficiency
For
because
Porsche
it for
or
the
for this.
CLA
Okay, for the CLA. All right.
or because they were able to basically kind of what's the word I'm even looking for? Down speed. I don't even know if
Hmm.
that's the right term, but
Yeah.
basically the highway ratio is a lower speed. It spins the motor at a slower speed, basically enabling higher range because more effective use of the mechanical output of the electrical motor at a lower speed to get a little bit better efficiency.
And
So,
I've been saying that
yeah.
for years as well, that I could see in the future you've got a vehicle that's got like
Hmm.
maybe the Kia Forte equivalent,
Hmm.
down the road of an EV comes with an old school four-speed automatic transmission, and
Hmm.
the electric motor only spins to 4,000 RPM, and
Hmm.
it's constantly shifting, but you can produce that cheaper and keep it in its ideal rev range with
Hmm.
the transmission. Maybe, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, but
So,
I could see that being a case, and so
yeah.
I could see that being something for this too.
Yeah. So they did acknowledge it was a higher cost to do it this way, but I guess in their mind, the gain and efficiency was worth the cost. I didn't see any pricing on this yet, so we still don't know what that is. We do know it has 800-volt architecture, 85 kilowatt hour NMC battery, um, brake by wire, heat pump, HVAC system. Um, Pretty impressive range. They're saying the conversion to Merkin is 367 to 418 miles estimated. Um, and I guess they're going to do a high.
Kind of lost Ed there. See if we can get him back. See if he drops off. Send him a text. And you're back.
And I'm back. Isn't
So,
that funny? This is the second time this has happened live. I guess, well, live if you want to call it live on air.
yeah, so you totally
Okay.
lost power in the middle of a conversation about the CLA.
Okay. CLA. Let's see. Where was I? 800-volt, 85 kilowatt NMC, brake by wire, heat pump, HVAC. Pretty good range. I think that's where we were, the range. Um, so estimated 367 to 418 miles. Pretty good. And I guess there's going to be a hybrid. I'm assuming plug-in hybrid. Um, so what's interesting about this is the engine was designed by Mercedes, but it's going to be built by Geely,
Oh,
the
that's
parent,
interesting.
yeah, the parent company of Volvo, Zeekr, Polestar, etc. Um,
Is that problematic with tariffs and whatnot?
to be determined. Now, Mercedes for a while, I think, was building engines in the U.S. I think in Alabama. So it's if it's just a matter of sending the CAD files from China to Alabama, and then
Yeah, if the production's already that's the thing with tariffs is the point of
yeah,
tariffs seems to be to get production to shift from one area to another area,
yeah,
say China to America. The way tariffs are being introduced now is like, boom, tomorrow, 200% tariff, and that's it.
hmm
You should build
hmm
it here. It's like, but it takes us like 3 to 5 years to build a
yeah,
factory and bring everything over. If there's already a factory, then this is exactly what a tariff would be good at doing, is
yeah,
giving incentive to then use the facility to its maximum.
hmm
So if that's the case, that would be a great use of
yeah.
a tariff.
So I mean, they would probably have to shift some supply chains around, but it's conceivable they could source some of the things domestically and possibly even build the range extender engine
Mhm.
and effectively build this vehicle in the US. Because, like I said, Mercedes already has a pre-existing plant in Alabama, which I think makes the current CLA or I guess I think maybe the A-class sedan. So might not be that big of a transition, but anyway.
So,
Um, mhm.
what are your thoughts on the unibrow? on this car. Link in the show notes. We're gonna have links to everything we talk about in the show notes.
Lately, that's kind of become a Mercedes signature for its EV models.
I've been okay with the unibrow on a lot of vehicles, but this one just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's got like a big bass mouth, which is uh, also like a Mercedes kind of thing.
Hmm.
And that's fine. But then it's got a unibrow over the top of it. It's like they're now putting everything. It's what is the expression? It's the lipstick on the pig, is what they're doing here.
I I don't know. I'm
And
kind
it's
of
not a
neutral.
pig. That's the problem. It's not a pig. They're
I'm
putting
kind
lipstick on it though,
of yeah.
regardless.
I'm kind of neutral about it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think the car otherwise is a nice looking car.
I think it's a
Um,
great. It looks
yeah.
fantastic, but I just
So
don't get the unibrow. I suppose that
um,
that's some vinyl, body covered vinyl will take care of
there
that
you go.
problem, and it'd be all fixed. And then it probably look like a Camry as soon as you do that.
Yeah. So making up for last time here.
Speaking of Camrys, uh, sort of, the
Yeah. So
BZ4X has got a redo,
yeah,
which I guess affects everything on
our
Toyota's
favorite
lineup.
EV that we love making fun of.
Well,
I guess
no,
the
that's the Mazda.
oh, oh yeah, that's right. The
This,
MX-30 or
yes, that's the EV we love to hate.
yeah.
This is the BZ4X, which by all accounts should be just a solid performer, like all Toyotas are. But somehow Toyota managed to miss the boat and
Well,
build
at least the
something.
first go around, it was a little
Yeah,
mediocre, and they were
it
like, "Yeah,
didn't charge fast. It didn't go fast. It couldn't charge a lot.
oh, it
It,
sounds like a Trump campaign rally."
it kills birds. Uh, it
Anyway,
jumps the border. It does all these things that are bad. Well, now Toyota's back and they've revamped the lineup
hmm
with, I guess, two battery options now. So now you can actually get where you're going.
hmm
And so what is that? 57.7 kilowatt hour battery. Was that the base one before?
No, well, at least the one they sold in the U.S. was bigger. It was 70 something.
Okay, well, because now you got
So
57.7
maybe that's for overseas markets.
and now you've got a 73.1 kilowatt hour battery.
Mhm.
So more cells, higher energy density. Sure, why not? 356 miles of WLTP range. So low
I think they're
300s, high 200s.
estimating about 280 on the EPA cycle. So that's up from 252. Um, and because they're platform mates, this also, some of these upgrades also apply to the Lexus RZ. Um, so that gets an even bigger power bump. But actually, for the dual motor BZ4X, this is a pretty significant upgrade. So um, it goes from 215 to 343 horsepower, which is
That is significant.
that's substantial.
So it
Um,
goes from painfully slow to where it should have been.
yeah, basically competitive. Um, uh,
And
the
the RZ gets 408 horsepower.
R408, yeah,
That is good
which
numbers.
definitely puts it in the hunt with like the dual motor Model Y. So
Yeah. No, it's
um,
solid.
the AC charging has basically doubled from 11 kilowatts to 22 kilowatts. So that's either higher than or the same as the Ionic 5, I guess. I initially put in the notes higher than. I think it's basically what the Ionic 5 is. So faster AC charging, so 240 volt, home charging or whatever,
Hmm.
substantially faster there.
Well, other than home charging probably won't be necessarily affected, but this would be like destination charging, I would assume. Because I mean, most home chargers are not going to be exceeding 11
That's true.
kilowatts.
So yeah, I guess public level two, it'll be faster charging for that. Also, they've added battery preconditioning. I guess that was a gripe from a lot of the owners of the first gen model. Um, that basically the problem they had is when they got to a charger, the car was like kind of caught off guard, like, oh, you want to charge? Whereas with Tesla,
I
if
thought we
you
were just going to run out of range. I didn't know you'd want to charge. Is that why
whereas
you
Tesla
put the charger in the GPS? Is that why?
so whereas like with Tesla and some other EVs, when you navigate to a charger, it'll start to precondition the battery to basically warm it up and accept charge faster. So I guess they implemented that. Um, and I guess this version is going to come to the US as a 2026 model. So maybe late spring, midsummer, fall. Who knows?
So don't buy a BZ4X
Well, unless you don't really
or an
care, and
RZ until later this year.
unless they give you a fat discount and you don't care, it's slow
And
charging. But
the funny thing though is
yeah.
the BZ4X in its existing state would
Hmm.
probably be fine for my family. I mean, it's a little small of a SUV for
Yeah.
my family, but I don't need the more power. I don't necessarily need the faster charging. I don't need any of that stuff. So it
Hmm.
could be come the end of the year, you want to buy a previous model when the 26 models come in. You want
Hmm.
to buy a 25 and get
Hmm.
the crazy Gideon price at the end of the year where they're stacking them deep and selling them cheap.
All you SoCal listeners, you know what we're talking about. Um,
Do you think they're going to have big discounts on the next thing we're going to talk about here?
I don't even know if it's ever going to happen, but sounds
So,
cool.
yeah, the Longbow, British EV startup that's, uh, it sounded like it was is it two engineers or somebody? It's like somebody
Yeah.
from Tesla met somebody from Lucid and was like, we should build a crazy concept and see if anybody will throw money at us. So they made a lightweight electric car, like a roadster and a
Hmm.
coupe, and they claim 2,200 pounds, which I believe we heard that before from Lotus, didn't we?
Hmm.
That they were going to build a 2,200 pound EV. And so now Longbow is now claiming that they're going to do it. The
Hmm.
Roadster has no windshield, so it stands no chance in America because you can't really do that here, I don't believe. But you might be able to in Europe
Hmm.
because they did have the Radicals and some others that were street legal that could be driven there.
Well, they have some like exemptions for low volume vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't know if that applies in the US, but
Now,
anyway.
this vehicle, though, what are the stats on this? 2,200 pounds, 0 to 60, 2 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds, which is like, okay.
Yeah.
Starting price $110,000, 85,000 pounds. Speedster's open top, limited to 150 units. And do we know anything else? No.
No. So my comment was, now if Mazda did this and could do it for 35 grand, then I'd be excited.
Yes. It
So
it would make a great Miata,
yeah.
but I don't know how much battery you could have in the thing for 2,200 pounds. It doesn't look like a small vehicle, but then photos are always misleading. So this could be a tiny little thing.
If
Like,
and when it happens.
yeah,
So
it
we'll see.
it isn't going to happen. So let's go and talk about something that shouldn't have happened. The Fisker
The-
Ocean
yeah.
is they officially Fisker's like officially official bankrupt
Done.
out. They're probably still in proceedings or something
Yeah.
because
I still see him driving around every now and
I've
then.
seen over the weekend I saw two,
Yeah.
which is mind blowing. I mean that they still work.
Yeah.
But so they're I don't know, that was a complicated bankruptcy because they're not based in America, even though they are based in America, and there was some whatever. Anyway,
But they were built. Yeah.
Rivian is now trying to offer how much to Rivian owners?
In some cases, supposedly up to $54,000 in a trading credit to get a Rivian
Now,
to ocean owners.
the craziness of this is that I believe it was like Edmunds took theirs to CarMax to get a valuation.
Hmm.
And they came in with like, so they'd spent like $80,000 on theirs. And then they
Hmm.
got like 3 months later, CarMax offered them like $20,000, something like that.
Hmm.
Then you were finding these things for like 18,000 to 25,000
Hmm. Hmm.
regularly.
Hmm.
And that seemed to be about where maybe they bottomed out further than that, but that seemed to be about the going price was about 20-ish, maybe 30,000. Why would Rivian do this? Are they that desperate to get new purchases that they're like, we're already taking a loss on our vehicles. What's a little bit more of a loss? Or, I mean, there's no way that they can take the parts and put them in their own vehicles, are there? Or is like
No, I mean, I think this is a kind of a calculated play of kind of like hoping
lose money
to,
lose money on this and make money when they
well, yeah, I mean,
buy into the next one?
if they can get loyal customers out of basically abandoned ocean owners and say, hey, you know, we'll give you a very generous trade in value. Now, personally, I think the timing on this would be better if they had the R2, which they don't yet. But I think some of the top level Ocean models were like 80 grand plus. So, um, they probably have potentially the discretionary income to, afford an R1S. So,
And the offer isn't actually, it gets good press.
mhm,
So I don't remember the numbers, and I believe I say this every week. If I were better at my job, I would have looked this up. But I believe their sales, the Fisker Ocean sales numbers for the
mhm,
first like 6 months or whatever before they declared bankruptcy was something like 3,500 units. It was
mhm,
not high.
mhm.
They produced like 8,000, but then they had like 5,000 sitting in a dumpster in the back of their lot in Southern California that they were
Yeah.
then pilfering for parts as cars broke and came back. So the actual sales number, once again, don't remember, but it was very low. It was not, 80,000
It was
units that
like
they
four
sold.
figures basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by putting this out there, a lot of those cars will have already been sold or traded or somebody's put in a collection or whatever it
Hmm.
is. So
Hmm.
this may actually be an offer only to like 1,000 people at this point.
Yeah. It's
So,
not a
but it
huge
gets a good
thing, but
headline and we talk
yeah.
about it and other people will talk about it. And so good on Rivian.
Yeah. So if you got an Ocean and you're like, okay, I want to own a car from a company that's actually in business, here you go.
I want to take a chance on another startup because the last one worked out so well. Let's go over and buy a Rivian.
Anyway. All right.
We
So
it,
one more
one more. It
thing.
has to be quick because we're
Okay.
we're
So
right
do
on the
you
edge before all your
remember?
power runs out.
Oh no, I'm not worried. I've got a Anchor C1000 who,
Go back and watch one of our episodes in the past where
yes.
you talk all about that stuff. It was around Christmas time. I don't remember
Yeah.
what episode.
Anyway, so I am running on a battery pack. Yes. Okay. Do you remember the Future is Eclectic guy? He did a TED talk
Yes, I do
where
remember
he's
this guy.
basically kind of downplaying EVs and said, "Oh no, we're going to have this mix of different powertrains and blah 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 for many many years to come." Graham Conway was his name.
Hmm.
Anyway, I just got I don't know why this popped up in my feed. I got a LinkedIn update from Graham Conway, who I don't know personally, but I have friends that know him. But anyway, that I found out after the fact. So guess what? He's no longer working at the Southwest Research Institute, um, researching internal combustion powertrains.
And why is this?
He says, according to his LinkedIn update, to a quote, slowdown in gasoline engine work.
And he was the one saying that EVs are like not the
Oh, this
future.
is too early, and like, oh, we're going to have combustion engines for decades and decades.
So that's kind of ironic. Where's he going to go?
I think he said he's going to work on like green energy for power plants or uh, iron ore processing or something. I don't know. More like industrial scale kind of stuff rather than combustion engines.
That's kind of ironic. Kind
Yeah.
of ironic.
So maybe the future might not be so eclectic after all.
No. Who knows? But the future does involve a lot of links in the show notes.
Yes.
So, which
And
will be,
batteries.
it will, yes. And the future for us is the present for you as you're listening to this. So go to the show notes. Those will be in the podcast and also on the website. Also on the website, you will go to /store, thewalkcar.com/store, and you can find t-shirts and stuff there that help support the blog and the podcast. That helps us out tremendously. Also sharing us on social media. We're on a variety of social medias, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and nothing else. But you can still talk about us on those other ones if you so
Yes.
choose.
Like I
Share
did.
any of the content. Ed's been churning out some stuff recently. I think there's another article that I've got to work on that you wrote already. Email us hello@thewalkcar.com. I'm not going to read it, but you can if you so choose. Just leave a comment on our YouTube channel.
YouTube.
I've already forgotten what I'm doing.
YouTube.com/at the walk car.
At the Walk Car, and you can watch our smiling faces there. And then we
You
also
can
do,
watch my freeze frame as my power went down.
yeah, I'll try and cut out the 10 minutes of waiting for your router to reboot, but maybe I could do an extended cut version this week of me just sitting here drinking my Chick-fil-A soda. And
Hello.
yeah, going, how long is this going to take? This is the problem with California and all their green energy, and it just keeps dropping out, and they can't afford to have EVs. You should have heard me.
We
10
got to
minutes.
do drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, drill, baby, drill. That's what you got to do. Thewalkcar.com/advertise. Longbow. Is that what it's called?
Sure.
Strongbow. The drink.
Strongbow. Hey, cider.
Strongbow.
I'm
We'll
all
put it
about
out.
that.
We'll put it out. The offer this week goes to Strongbow. If you want to send us some cider, go for it. We're working on some stuff. I don't know what, but
About 2 or 3 weeks out, you'll see.
yep. All right. Talk to you then.
All right. Bye.